Welcome to another episode of Founders Club. On this episode, we're going to be talking to Cody Sperber, who is the founder of Clever Investor and 100 Million Academy. He has personally done over 1,000 real estate deals over his career, and he's got over 1 million followers on Instagram. We're going to be breaking down the biggest opportunities that he sees in this post-COVID real estate market, all of his favorite real estate investing tools and softwares, how he grew his Instagram to over 1 million followers, and all the creative investing strategies that he's using right now to make money in this market. If you have any questions, put them in the box down below. If you like what you see, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe for future videos, and we'll see you on the inside. Welcome, Cody Sperber, to Founders Club Live.
Thanks, Oliver. Excited to be here. And by the way, this is my first thing that I'm doing in my brand new studio space. So
Awesome.
I'm pretty stoked. Like, we made it all fancy in here. Watch, I'll just kind of show you over here. We got
it looks really good.
Got some real estate stuff going on, and we got a fancy wall over here that we can record on.
Nice.
All right, we're back.
So I just want to start, since this is the first time we've had you on, and I think Clever Investor is a really cool nickname / brand. How did you get that nickname?
Well, I got it after getting a little bit of a reputation for being kind of a creative deal maker. My wife actually is the one who coined the phrase originally, Clever Investor, but it kind of stuck around town. People used to, we were all sitting around, and she heard somebody say, "You're so clever." And it just stuck, and she started calling me Clever Investor, and other people around town started calling me it. And then when I first, this is a little known fact, when I first was starting my business, I was like, Clever Investor, that's kind of a cool brand name. Like, maybe I'll roll with that. But somebody actually owned the domain. And if you're watching this right now and you're like thinking about, like, how can I get my brand out there? How can I get creative? It was taken, and they wanted $5,000 for the domain name. And I didn't have a lot of money very early on. So $5,000 to spend on a domain was like out of the question. So I actually started with Clever with a K. Just as a little workaround. And my first year or two, I rolled with Clever with the K. And so that's what I started with. And then eventually I said, you know what, I gotta go mainstream. So bought the domain off the guy. He still wanted $5,000. So not bad.
In the big scheme of things, probably a wise purchase though.
Oh yeah, no, it worked out.
Very cool. So on the note of these kind of clever strategies that you're known for, I know one that you're really excited about, or that you've been doing more of in the last couple of years, is the virtual wholesaling concept. So I just kind of wanted you to just break that down for us so we could get a little more understanding on how that strategy works.
You know, the thing with being a creative real estate investor is you really want to have multiple tools in your tool belt. When I first got into the business, I was thinking like very traditional, like a real estate agent. And I think being a real estate agent is a great way to break into the business because, you know, there's classes set up. You can find a brokerage. They can mentor you, helps you with the legalities. But what I found is if I had to pick which side of the equation I wanted to be on, which side of the transaction, did I want to earn 3%, or did I want to also be able to double and triple dip, earn 30, 40% returns or more? And so I started going down this path of just learning as much about creative real estate investing as possible. And one of the first strategies I found that I fell into was wholesaling, no money down real estate investing. And if you're watching this and you haven't heard of it, definitely want to look that up. I didn't invent the strategy. I did do really well with it. I've done well over 1,000 wholesale deals, probably like 2,000 or 3,000 now.
Wow.
But it's just the concept of putting out marketing, right? So you're sitting here and you're like, all right, I want to do a wholesale deal. So you're going to put out marketing, and there's a lot of ways to put out marketing. I'm sure you guys cover marketing 50 billion ways, but social media marketing, traditional marketing like direct mail, bandit signs. I get a lot of deals right now through text message marketing and cold calling, and lots through DMs on social media. So anyway, somebody raises their hand and says, you know what, I'm interested in selling my house quick for cash. And the way I always think about it is when you look down your average American neighborhood, 90% of the homeowners, if they want to sell, they're going to go with the real estate agent. They're not that motivated. They're going to try and get the most that they possibly can for their property. And an agent's going to show up and say, well, if you fix this up and declutter over here and we, kind of do this marketing strategy, I think I can get you top dollar. And if there's no motivation, nobody's going to sell at a massive discount. But there's always about 10% of people that have lost their job. We could look around right now. There's a lot of people out of work or struggling to pay their bills. I just read an article yesterday, 40 million Americans are not paying their rent or their mortgage payment until towards the end of the month. So if you think about what's happening is they're jockeying their bills around, right? And then they're finally getting to the ability to pay. And that's a real scary thing, this tidal wave of potential defaults and stress that's coming down the pipeline. And so there's a lot of reasons people become really motivated. Losing their job, falling behind on payments, being relocated, inheriting an unwanted property, death, divorce, legal stuff,
right?
Dozens of reasons. And so when they get to that emotional place where all their money's tied up in their property and they need to sell quickly, an all cash offer seems very enticing. And so if you put out your marketing and say, I'll pay cash, they might raise their hand and say, hey, let's talk. So I would show up, I would work out a deal with them that makes sense to both of us. And I'd put their property under contract. And once you put a piece of real estate under contract in the United States, you have equitable interest. I now have the ability to take that paperwork and shop it around to landlords or rehabbers to see if they're interested in getting another deal. Because you're a principal in the transaction, you're allowed to do this without needing a real estate license. And once I understood that concept, I'm like, wow. And I did that a bunch of here locally in Arizona. And finally, I'm like, can I do this everywhere? Like, what's stopping me from doing this in another state where maybe if I send out direct mail here in Arizona, I might get a 2% return on my direct mail. But if I send it somewhere in Alabama, I get an 8% return or a 20% return. It's like, wow, I get a lot more bang for my marketing buck over there. And that's where virtual wholesaling, it's the same concept as doing it locally. You're just doing it remotely, which does have some nuances, meaning you got to have some relationships and what we would call boots on the ground. A lot of times it's a real estate agent. I call local agents that are investor friendly. And I say, hey, I'm putting out marketing in the area. One of two things happens when I put out my marketing. Either they say, yeah, I'm interested in selling. I need an all cash offer. I want to close quick. I need the money. Or they say, you know what? I'm not that motivated. I'd rather try and get more for my property. Win-win for you both ways, because I'm going to tee you up as an agent to go get a listing.
Yep.
And so I have a lot of agent relationships I do that with. And I just found it allowed me to scale a lot faster.
When you find those deals that are in a market that isn't your local market, are you leveraging those agents to work with their investors? Is that kind of the strategy, so that as soon as you find the deal, they can unload it for you fairly quickly, or at least give you some leads of people that will buy those kinds of deals?
It's part of it. It's part of the market. So once you get a house under contract, you got to boot back up your marketing again to find the landlords, find the rehabbers. If the agent that you're working with has a pool of buyers that they're working with, that's awesome. If not, a good deal will sell itself. A lot of people come to me and they say, Cody, should I do a buyer's list first and try and build relationships with cash buyers, or should I go find deals first? And mine is do both at the same time, but focus on getting the deals, because a good deal is going to sell itself. Now, I will say, if you do have cash buyers, you don't need a lot of them. You just need serious buyers, and you know what they want. They tell you what they want, and then you go and find what they want, right? So it's almost like a reverse wholesaling scenario. And if you do that, you don't need a ton of resources. You don't need a huge buyer pool. A lot of times on social media, believe it or not, I'll put out a deal on a Facebook group. I get 10, 20, 30 inquiries and set some appointments. I'll call my agent, hey, or I'll call my boots on the ground. Sometimes it's just another local wholesaler there, and I'll just say, hey, can you go meet some potential buyers at the property, bring the contract, let's go. And I'll split the profits with them. So it's a win-win, because it's a co-wholesaling relationship. Yeah, everybody wins.
Good distinction there too, because if you get them in on the action, I'm sure they're a lot more motivated.
you get good agents on your team and you pay them really well, like you don't nitpick their commissions and stuff like that, they are going to 10x ROI anything that it's going to cost you in little, 3% commissions or whatever. And in fact, my goal is to pay them more than they could earn anywhere else, because then they're like, Sperber's like my main dude. Like, I like this guy. Yeah. He brings the big money deals.
Now they're fighting over you instead of the other way around.
Exactly.
Great distinction. So that's cool. If you guys want to know more about wholesaling, I did another episode fully on wholesaling with, I think, a good friend of yours, Corey Boatwright. So shout out to Corey Boatwright, and you guys can check that out. I'll put that in the description below. So moving on with the Clever Investor brand, I've kind of watched you just blow up on Instagram over the last couple years. I know that I don't know, but I can guess that that's really helped not only build your business, but help with deal flow, help with credibility, help with all those kinds of things and social proof and whatnot. But like, what strategies could you give to the average agent, average investor on kind of how to take their Instagram game to the next level?
Yeah. And I think it's so vitally important. If you are not building a personal brand, especially on a platform like Instagram, like I like LinkedIn. I think Twitter is cool. Facebook is cool. Instagram is the personal brand building platform of choice. That's where I would focus. And what's great about Instagram is it is a hackable platform. And what that means is you find out the formula and the strategies to grow your following and get your engagement going. You can win the Instagram game. And what's great about winning the Instagram game is it opens doors. You get instant credibility. If you have, and you don't need a ton, like you can have 12,000 followers and the average person has like 50. So they're looking at you like, holy moly, you're like the man or the woman in that particular niche. For me, I got really nerdy about, okay, how does the platform work? How's the algorithms work? What is like kind of the approach to beating this thing? And what I found is step number one always is picking your lane and getting consistent content posted that is within that lane. So for instance, if I'm in real estate, I'm not going to post a ton of funny memes, or I'm not going to post like random pictures of my food. It's like, you got to kind of be professional or stay in your lane. And so I recommend 3 posts per day. Do like a 9 in the morning, a noon, and a 6 p.m. So that way there's a consistent posting schedule. And when you do your posts, make sure that you're kind of fluctuating. It's not just all houses, but like it's maybe some personal stuff and some family stuff, but make it a lesson around it, right? Like a lesson. Don't just say, here's a picture of my dog. Maybe tell a little story about the dog and make it more interactive. And then when you do your real estate post, take advantage of the captions and really, write some business advice or some entrepreneurial advice or some stuff about the local market. A lot of people don't take advantage of those captions. They just put an emoji or they put a sentence or two. If you look at mine, I write like a long book, and it really does connect with the audience. And so by the 90 days of this, 90 days, 3 times a day, it is a heavy personal investment, but it pays off because once you have the foundation, now we can hack the platform and go and get the followers. You get what I'm saying? Because if we work on getting followers to a page that sucks, it doesn't look good. Like if you look at mine right now, I have a pattern design going, a dark post with a light post, a dark post, and it forms like this pattern. Visually, it feels good when you look at it. And so build the foundation. And then now when you drive followers to your page, there's a higher chance that they're going to click follow and stick. All right. And the coveted spot is to get to your first 10,000. The reason we want to get to 10,000 is it provides more features for you, like the swipe up feature. And as a real estate professional, being able to say, hey, I just put out this new listing, or I got this house, or I'm looking for cash buyers, swipe up, join my list. It makes it a lot easier for them to interact and engage through the stories.
Yeah, that's huge.
And then that's step one. And step two is now finding strategic partners. This is the same in your business as it is in your social. Find strategic partners like the broke agent. he's a well-known page on Instagram that does funny real estate memes. You know, once I got my foundation there, and it was the reverse because I was bigger than him, but he and I started connecting through DMs. And now what we'll do every once in a while, I'll take some of his content, post it on my page with his Instagram handle, saying, go follow my friend over at the Broke Agent. He's hilarious. And then he'll post something of mine and send traffic back my way. So now there's this co-marketing relationship. We call it a shout out. And now we're getting traffic from each other. I love that because his page is heavily agents, heavily real estate themed. Well, as a real estate guy, that's my target audience. You could do the same thing with motivational pages, with sports pages, with lifestyle traveling pages. And then what I found is that there's a lot of these pages, some of them have 10, 12, 15 million followers, and they are owned by kids in high school.
It's crazy. I know.
It's crazy. And this is their business model, is to have you send them $200 or $300 through PayPal. And then you send them, we use a messaging app called Kick. We also use, what's the other one? Telegram. And so like in their bio on their page, like let's call it like Epic Funny Page is one of the pages. And it's got like 14 million or something. In the bio, it says how to contact him via Telegram. So then you go on Telegram, you hit him up, you say, hey, how much for a shout out? And he goes, oh, it'll be $300 for a 24-hour post. And you say, cool, I'll do it. Or you negotiate, say, I'll pay $250. And he goes, all right, I'll take $250. And then you send him the money. And then you send him your content that you want him to post with a written description that basically says, go follow my friend at Clever Investor. He's awesome with real estate. If you want to become a real estate millionaire, go follow him. And then all his followers start coming. And I might get, 200 followers to 2,000 followers on a shout like that. Now it's a paid shout, but it's just like growing your brand or you're doing marketing in your business.
Yeah. It's marketing dollars.
And in the beginning, so step 2 is get the traffic. Step 3 is to build a relationship with that traffic. And in the beginning, I did not sell anything to them. In the beginning, it's just engage, interact, show love, go back to their page, show, especially now that I'm verified. If I like people's posts that follow me, like I'll have my assistant go into my app and like 200 people in a day. And they go crazy. They're like, Sperber follows me and he likes my stuff. Yeah. Right now they're super hyper engagers. And so they love that interaction. And then eventually, once you get a certain amount of people, like let's call it, 10,000, now you can slowly start dripping in like marketing and sales things to them because you built their trust.
Right.
And that's the formula. And I did it and I grew it. I had a goal in my head. I want to get to 1 million. I got to 1 million. I scaled it a little past 1 million. And then I got the blue check mark along the way. And that was huge door opener for me. People like Ed Milet and Andy Frisella and like Dan Fleischman, now my partner in 100 Million Academy. I met him on Instagram, Grant Cardone, like Ty Lopez, you name it, like all the big dogs were all connected through Instagram. And without that platform, I would have never known them.
Yeah. Amazing. It's really amazing. Yeah. So just to kind of recap, it sounds like strategy wise, 3 posts per day. We're going to do a 90-day commitment, 3 posts per day. Take advantage of the captions, write more, share stories, add value, and make them longer. And I'm even seeing people write like blog post length captions. So I don't know how that helps or hurts, but I think that just
and let me give you a tool. I'm going to give you a tool real quick, just because we're talking about it. It's called Spacey. I don't know if you can see that, but it allows. Yep. It's called Spacey. It's an app. This is where I write my Instagram captions. So if you ever seen an Instagram caption that has like bold or italicized or spaces without having to put the little period in the spaces, that's the app, and it's free. It might not
Spacey.
It might be $3 or something. I forget what it was, but it wasn't very much. And that's how you write the cool captions. You do it in Spacey, then you copy it, and then you post it.
Awesome. Because if you try to do it in Instagram, you might drive yourself insane.
It's crazy.
So we're doing that, and then the goal is to get to your first 10,000, unlock the swipe ups. That's going to give you a lot more marketing abilities and ability to grow lists and things like that. And then from there, you really want to focus on just other relationships with Instagrammers and Instagram accounts to kind of work with each other to grow each other's accounts and pay for shout outs if you need to along the way.
Yeah. And the key is, like, let's say you have 5,000 followers. You wouldn't come to an account with 1.2 million and say, hey, will you shout me out? You would go to other accounts that have 5,000 followers and work together.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. Because now they're hey, yeah, let's do this. Cause you're both coming up.
Yep.
It's worth it to share the marketing firepower.
Yeah, no, that's a really good distinction, because I'd imagine if you're going to those huge pages, you just kind of sound annoying and they're probably getting hit up by tons and tons of people. Whereas, sub 100K accounts are probably a lot different.
Yep.
Awesome. Great tip there. So I kind of want to shift gears a little bit and kind of get your thoughts on the real estate market and kind of what we're heading towards. And then also kind of opportunity wise, what we should be looking for. But, you kind of touched on it earlier. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market. There's a kind of a consensus that things are going to be going down. Some people are a lot more bullish. Some people are more bearish on that. But just kind of curious what your thoughts are on how this whole COVID thing shakes out for the real estate market.
Yeah. And obviously these are, just opinions based on intuition of past experiences. None of us really know what's going on. I mean, a single event can shift everything. So here's where I'm currently leaning and I'm moving my business towards. So first off, I'm more on there's a tsunami coming. Get ready, right? I think there's a tsunami of defaults coming. I think there's a tsunami of car repos coming. I think there's a tsunami of student debt defaults coming. I think the dollar, I just saw a post today that the Fed is going to force inflation. The money game is changing right now. I believe with all of me that there's going to be the largest transfer of wealth we've ever seen, ever. And the election could go either way. I mean, I don't want to get political, but both situations suck on some level. And I think a lot of people realize, like, this sucks and this sucks. So we all just have to do the best we can. So the way I'm approaching things is as the market shifts. So we've been on a pretty bullish run for 15 years, right?
Yeah,
or whatever you want to call it.
I was going to say at least a decade.
Yeah. So historically, markets shift every 15 to 18 years. And so we should be moving into a hyperinflation and then into a downturn. That's what's supposed to happen. And when those shifts happen, different tools in your tool belt become more prominent. So for instance, right now, what I'm seeing is it's going to be different than 2008 because people have a lot of equity. So when people default that have a lot of equity, it's a different type of default than when they default and they are underwater. Mm-hmm. So right now, what I'm seeing is you better get your creative financing tools sharpened up. We call it seller participation. I would do it in markets, and I would do it if you think about every real estate lead, they fall into one of three buckets, right? Want to sell, need to sell, have to sell. So if you think of these three buckets, the want to sell is going to go with an agent, right? Give me super top dollar, pay, if you're a dumb buyer.
They have time to wait, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not in a hurry. I'm good. I'm just, hey, be nice. And they might not even really want to sell. They just want to sell if you're going to give them premium.
Right.
On the opposite side is where all the wholesalers are operating, which is the need to sell. I'm in pain. I need to get money. Let's go. The largest bucket of leads is actually in the middle. Is the need to sell bucket. And that is the one that sees the problem coming. They see the pain coming. They see the market shifting. They have equity, or maybe they don't have equity, but they're not in so much pain that they're going to make a dumb decision right this second. So we approach them a little different. We say, look, you have options as a homeowner, but it's all price or terms whenever you're negotiating, right? I can give you the price, but you got to give me the terms, right? Or vice versa. I'll give me the terms and I'll give me a better price. And so I just look at it like, all right, if that's where I think the market's heading right now is towards creative financing deals, which is traditionally seller financing, where you're bypassing the bank and the seller, they own the house free and clear. But they're looking at it going, hey, do I think the market's going to get better or worse over the next few years? I think it's going to get worse. So now would be the time to sell it at top dollar.
Right. Take the money off the table.
Take the money off the table and lock in my profits.
Mm-hmm.
Now, hey, I'll give you $200,000 for your house. But if I was to pay you all cash, I couldn't give you $200 because that would be a bad investment on my end. But if you give me terms, like for instance, you finance me, I'll pay you 10% down. You carry the remaining balance. We'll amortize it over 30 years. Now, I obviously know that you don't want to hold the note for 30 years, so we'll balloon it in 10. So there's a sunset on there. And I'll make you payments until paid. And they go, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, if I say I'll make you payments until paid, that means I'm not paying you any interest. That means I'm just making you principal only payments until it's paid, but we'll balloon it in 10. And they might come back and say, no, I want 5% interest on my money. I go, okay, I'll give you the 5% interest on your money. That's fine. But let's create a stair step where year 1, it's 1% interest. Year 2, it's 2% interest. Year 3, it's 3%, 4%, up to year 5. And then for the remaining 5 years, you'll get the 5% interest. Will that work for you? So what I'm teaching you right now, or what I'm explaining, is it's just pulling levers, right? It's all these levers in a negotiation to come up with the terms that make sense. Because if rental rates are up here and I can lock in my PITI down here, then all of a sudden this is a viable seller financing deal.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up 2 or 3 of these in the last month. You wouldn't believe how many people own houses free and clear. And it's very easy to buy a list from a data provider of free and clear houses.
Yep.
And do your marketing to them. Now, change the scenario. They're in that need to sell bucket. They don't have equity, right? They owe as much as the house is worth. Now I can show up, as long as it's still in that working class environment where the real estate's affordable for most people and rent rates are strong. Here's what you need to know about rent rates when markets go up and down. They don't really go up and down that much.
Yeah, they don't move much. Right.
Rent rates, especially in the working class. Now you go to luxury, rent rates go up and down.
Yeah.
Working class neighborhoods, rent rates might fluctuate by $100 or $200, but like it's not like they bottom out.
Right.
I rented a house with my family when I was a kid. I think we paid $700 a month. The house probably still rents for $700 a month.
Right.
That was forever ago. So I show up and I say, hey, look, I know you're in pain. You're already 2 payments behind. What if I come in? You can't sell traditionally because you'd have to come out of pocket to be able to do that. What if I step in and just start making your mortgage payments for you? And that's called a subject to transaction. You're taking over the deal subject to leaving their financing in place. And so now I can show up and say, hey, I think this would make a great rental for me. I'll make the 2 months back payments. I'll take over making your mortgage payment. You move out. You don't have to deal with the real estate any longer. And we're going to leave your financing in place. I'm not assuming it. I'm just going to pay it. Right? And that's called a subject to transaction. And some people go, whoa, hold on, Cody. Subject twos are risky because now there's a lot of liabilities for you as the investor. And especially, listen, if you're licensed, you want to be really careful doing these types of transactions. So instead of doing it through subject to paperwork, you could do what's called a wraparound mortgage.
Okay.
Right? Which is a different style of doing the deal. In a subject to transaction, we're separating the note and the mortgage, right? That's a subject to, a traditional subject to. Leave the note in place, but change title. You deed the house over to me. So now I control the real estate. I get the tax benefits of owning the real estate, but we leave the mortgage in place. And we kind of hope that the lender doesn't find out.
Right.
Because if they do, they may call the note due.
Right.
Because of the due on sale clause. It doesn't really happen that way. But,
yeah,
you know,
in general, if they're getting their money, they usually are going to be okay with it.
They're usually okay. Now I have had it where years down the road, the seller wants to buy another property. And now they have a little amnesia. They forgot what they did with you. And so they call their bank and they say, hey, I'd like to get a loan. And their bank says, well, you already have a loan, so we're not going to give you another one. And they go, what do you mean I don't have a loan? I sold the house. And they go, what do you mean you sold the house? And it triggers the conversation of the due on sale clause. So that has happened, or a divorce has happened, or a death has happened. So there is some risk. Now, if you know how to do your paperwork correctly, there is a bunch of options that you can pre-create when you're doing the original transaction, and also do afterwards if a due on sale clause is triggered or the seller wants to buy another property. There's a lot of options. I won't go into them all right now, but there's creative workarounds. But a wraparound mortgage, you don't actually separate the note in the mortgage or the title. What you're doing is you're taking their underlying mortgage and you're wrapping it with a new financing instrument called a wraparound mortgage. So the title never changes hands at that moment. So there are creative workarounds to that scenario. And then the third situation is they have a loan. They have a bunch of equity, right? So they don't own it free and clear. They have a loan. So it's like a subject to. They have equity and they want some of that equity. They want to keep some of their equity. And you could also do a wrap on that scenario, or you can do what's called an all-inclusive contract for deed. So that in that scenario, I can go to them and say, hey, I'll pay you some of your equity now. You'll carry back a second for the remaining balance of the equity. I'll make the underlying mortgage payments, and we'll create this new financing instrument, which gives me the ability. I just keep pulling the levers until I get the rents up here, the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance down here. And as long as I create my spread, I'm good to go.
That's a very cool strategy. So in that example, that last one you just gave, let's say the property's 200, they owe 120. Break that down for me on how.
170. They want 180, right? They want some amount of that equity. Yeah.
Okay. So in that scenario, go ahead.
What do you need the money for? I'm going to solve the problem,
moving to
right?
Texas, right? Yeah. Okay.
I want to move to Texas. I want to buy an RV. I need a minimum 40K. Okay, I'm going to get you the 40K. You're going to carry back the rest. You can carry back the second at 3% interest, 4% interest, 5% interest, but we're going to defer it to the end. So you're going to earn interest on your money. I'm just not going to make you any payments on the remaining balance, and it's all going to get pushed to the end. But it earns your bucket of money earns interest. So now I keep my PITI low enough to where I can get my cash flow. And then you get the property. Now I control the real estate.
Right.
Now I could do a lot of things. I can rent it out. I can package it up and wholesale it to another investor if I want to, make a quick 5 or 10 grand for packaging all together. I could just do a traditional rental, or I can lease option it on the back end. You now people who are following that understand what I just said. This is transactional engineering. This is Clever Investor, right? Like this is how you get in the game and you start looking at real estate in a whole different way. It was like, once my mentor taught me this, I was like, I don't have a money problem. I have a creativity problem. I have a problem thinking so traditionally that I couldn't get out of my own way. And I didn't understand that there was all these seller participation models out there. And that's the biggest bucket of leads. Why am I not going after that and figuring out the paperwork, figuring out how to offer that, figuring out how to make it make sense to the seller where they go, you know what? This is actually a really good deal. I'm going to get my 180. I'm going to get my RV. I'm going to get my 40 grand, but then the rest I'm earning 5% interest. I'm just going to have to wait 7 years or 10 years to actually get it.
When you sell.
When the balloon happens and I actually cash them out of the remaining balance. It's like any other mortgage, because the underlying mortgage, what's cool about that, what happens every single time in a mortgage, like let's say there was in that scenario, they have a $200,000 house, but they have a $120,000 mortgage on it. Well, I lock it in at the 120, but over the next 7 years, my tenant's paying down that mortgage. So I'm capturing that equity now, right? So, I'm making money. So if I lease option it on the back end, and let's say I offer it for a $10,000 option deposit with the ability to buy it from me for $240 within 18 months. So now I get 10 grand when they give me the option deposit. So I'm getting money up front. I'm getting cash flow plus forced depreciation, which is them paying down the payments.
Yep.
And then if they execute their option, I get another $40,000 in markup that I mark the property up. I'm win.
Beautiful.
Win. Yeah. That's where I see the market going. I think over the next 24 months, when I say the largest transfer of wealth is going to happen, is for people that get what I just said and that go out there and said, you know what, in 08, I wasn't ready. I didn't understand. I kind of just rode whatever wave there was. But now I'm ready. And I'm going to take full advantage of this scenario. And what I would do if I was you, I would look at the little markets. This is the time that I think little markets are going to shine. I bought 4 properties in a little, I don't even want to tell you the city because I don't want you to go there. Stay away from my city, but just know it's between Arizona and California. And what's happening in California?
Mass exodus and you know, people are over taxation.
They're screwing everything up right now. It's a giant mess of debt and homeless shelters. Like it's just a mess. So people are looking around saying, I'm no longer attached to my job because I'm working remotely. I'm probably not going back, and it's perfectly fine now to be remote. I don't want to stay in this high cost of living. So I'm going to go 2.5 or 3 hours away, and I'm gonna get right on the border. And I'm telling you, these I'm buying little properties, $80,000 to $90,000 properties that rent from anywhere from, $900 up to $1,600.
That's cool.
We're talking
when you say little markets, can you give me a little more clarity? Is that like less than 100,000, less than 20,000?
Well, yeah. And I'm just saying, like, not the big city.
Gotcha.
Not the big city. Go like I'll give you one of the cities, Bullhead City.
Okay.
Okay. Little rinky-dink place, working class, not a lot going on there, but real estate's cheap. People are migrating there. I put a house up on Zillow to rent. I'll get 50 different applications and inquiries within the first 24 hours.
Wow.
There's no rentals available. There's no real estate available.
Wow.
Everybody's mindset is stay home, hunker down. That's why the refi boom's going on. That's why landscapers are so busy. They're turning people away because everybody's just like, this. If I'm going to be in this place, I want to make it my own. I want to make it nice, and I'm going to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And so not a lot of inventory, which means, and I put out a thing, an ad that said 850 or more. Didn't know that was going to work. I just threw it out there. Somebody called and got, well, what does 850 or more mean? Well, it means I originally started at 850 and now we're at 950. What do you want to offer? Okay, I'll do 960. Okay, you're at the top. I'll call you back here. I'm gonna make my choice here by the end of the day.
So you're auctioning off rentals.
It was the craziest thing. And you know what? People are so desperate to find a good, clean rental because in these little houses, so I did a deal where lady had a double wide trailer on a double lot, right? She wanted $60K. I said, okay, I'm going to pay you $12K down, which I believe is 10%, $12K down, and you carry back the remaining balance for 5 years, and I'll make you principal-only payments for those 5 years, and then I'll cash you out of the remaining balance. And she goes, okay, well, I need $500 a month at a minimum. And I said, well, I want to pay you $300. And we went back and forth. We landed at $400.
Right in the middle.
Right. It's the fairest negotiation strategy in the world. If they say this, you just double it backwards and then you meet in the middle. It's like negotiation 101.
Yeah.
And so and we met at 400. And so think about that, what's going on there. That's the one that I did the 850 or more. We ended up at about 975 in rents.
It's incredible.
My little handyman went over there and put about $600 into the property to clean it up, paint, fixed a little patch of carpet and all that stuff, made sure all the hardware was working, and the place smelled good.
Yeah.
So at 975, that's 100% profit because it's principal only payments. and I'm only paying out $400.
$400. Yeah. It's
How many
great.
of those types of deals do you want? Would 50 be nice?
Yeah.
Think about that. 50. Wow, 50. If I can get $900 times 50, you built a financial wall around you and your family that doesn't matter who's elected.
100%.
Right? It doesn't matter what gas prices do. It doesn't matter, your taxes are low because you own real estate and you're depreciating and writing stuff off. Yeah. And then guess what you could do on the back end if you wanted to? Let's say you just leave your renters in there for a few years, right? For 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. Now you own all this real estate free and clear. Now you have real leverage, real buying power, real capabilities to do a lot of different things. If now you can go partner up with a mortgage lender, like a mortgage banker, and you can say, you know what? Because of the Dodd-Frank Act, I can't sell or finance too many of these deals on my own. But with you, if you run them through you, now I can sell or finance all of my real estate. I own them all free and clear. And now I'm just going to create a giant money machine where I sell them all. That 60K house I sell for 120 on a note. I manipulate the terms to make it make sense to the buyer. But now I just created double what it's worth because I'm giving somebody a creative, no money, like, hey, give me $3,000 down. I'll finance the rest. No problem. Yeah. Do that times 50 houses and you'll never work another day.
You'll never do anything. And then you start 1031ing those up and you'll just never look back.
It's generational wealth.
That's very cool. And I think some of the strategies that you're talking about are really slick and at the same time really doable. I think that's what's exciting. If someone wanted to learn more about these strategies that you're talking about, what would be a good place for them to go?
Yeah, so cleverinvestor.com is my online education company. I have a new product. It's coming out probably within the next 30 to 40 days called the Free House Formula, which breaks down everything that I'm teaching you guys on this thing right now. So I will actually have a course because this is what I do, right? I go out and I do a bunch of these deals. I perfect the models. I do it because I'm a very active investor. And then I build training around it. I simplify it. And then I offer it to my students. And so just get involved with the community. My favorite thing about Clever Investor is the community that was born kind of around it. It's so much bigger than Cody Sperber. I never wanted to be a guru. I have no interest in being the man. That's why I didn't call it Cody Sperber. I wanted to be the Clever Investor. You're a Clever Investor. That's what this is all about, is how
it makes it very relatable for people.
Yeah, you're the Clever Investor. And how do you be the best Clever Investor you can be and you should be thinking like, if you're in real estate, you should be like the Marine Corps, like no lead left behind.
I like that.
Right? Like that's kind of what it's like. It's like we work so hard. Think about being an agent. You work so hard to fire yourself. Right? You do the deal, you fire yourself, now you got to wait 7 years to get a job again.
To get rehired.
To get rehired by that client. And so it's like, how do I compensate with that? If you love being an agent, be a great agent. If you love being a mortgage officer, be a mortgage officer. And by the way, if I'm an investor, guess who I'm calling right now to build relationships with? Mortgage officers, because they're printing money and they're busier than they've ever been. This is Christmas. This is the best. I'm telling you, the best season of their mortgage officers' lives. Yeah. They're going to make more money over the next 12 months than they ever have, ever. They got to park that money somewhere. If they're smart, they're not just going to upgrade their life because their mortgage, the season's going to go back down eventually when all this chaos goes away. But put their money in real estate. They're looking for rental real estate to put their money in. Call them all, check back in consistently, and put deals in front of them constantly. Hey, I got this one. You're interested? You interested? You interested? And I do that, and you'd be surprised how many of them have a couple $100,000 just sitting there that needs a home.
Yeah, that's great. No, I love it. That's cool. I love these strategies. I love how you look at things in terms of just pulling the different levers until you can find the best fit. I think that's pretty amazing. And I love what you said about this being the biggest transfer of wealth in our lifetimes, because I feel like a lot of us maybe feel like we missed the boat in 2008 And so what can we do? Obviously learning these strategies, but what can we do to make sure we're prepared this time around?
Yeah. Step number one, obviously, and we talked about a lot of the elements. So step number one is obviously educating yourself. I heard what you said. I didn't understand barely any of it, right? Like I didn't really internalize it. So you got to go and you got to educate. Look up wraparound mortgages. Look up all-inclusive contract for deeds. Look up seller financing. Look up seller participation and creative financing. A lot of stuff on YouTube even. But educate yourself, number one. Whether that means finding a mentor, finding somebody that's already doing the business and getting proximity to them, that's always step number one. Because when you're exposed to principals or people playing the game at the highest level, you're naturally start to level up, right? You just start to get pulled up because you're like, I didn't know that existed. I'm now geeking out on it. Over time, you're gonna be able to serve your way up there. And so that's number one. Number two is you got to create a success habit of getting out of the education world as fast as possible through active deal making. You'll learn through screwing stuff up, and you know how this is. You get hung up on, you get better on the phones. You sit down at a seller appointment and they tell you no. Next time you go, you're wiser, you're faster, you're able to overcome objections a little bit more. So get in the game at all costs. Get in the game.
Yeah.
And then I would say number three is find a community to plug into. There's a lot of Facebook groups. There's a lot of things out there where you can get plugged into a community. The reason I started Clever Investor was for the community. The reason I started 100millionacademy.com, which is my entrepreneurial education business with my good friends Dan Fleischman and Joel Marion. And if you don't know Dan, go follow him on Instagram. The guy is the youngest founder of publicly traded companies, an absolute badass. I can't say enough great things. He's the most connected man I've ever met. And then Joel Marion, founder of BioTrust, did over $780 million in, health and fitness space. They do, over 100 million a year. He's got over 20 million people on his email database. Just an amazing marketer, playing the game at a very high level. We started 100millionacademy.com to teach entrepreneurs how to be better entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, you go to business school or something at college? Like, how are you going to learn business from a dude?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. It's something that we talk about a lot, is that there's obviously doing it is the best learning experience, but there's no really good trainings for people on how to start a business, how to work the taxes the right way, how to set up your entities properly, how to network, how to market, how to do all these things. And I think that, the more entrepreneurs we can create, the better we're all going to be.
It's a self-fulfilling loop. If you think about it, how many people are out of work looking for jobs? You start a business, you hire 10 people. If we can get 100,000 entrepreneurs to start a business and they all hire 10 people, it gets a lot better, right? And so we did that. We solved that problem, and we did it by finding instructors through our network and our relationships that have all, like if I go to college, like maybe one or two or three of my instructors made $100 million, maybe in the whole college, like maybe.
Yeah.
Go to Harvard, it might be a little different, but normal college, nobody's playing the game at that level. And so we went to the best in the world at what they do. They've all made $100 million, spent $100 million on advertising, or received 100 million impressions. So they're celebrities or they're badasses. And, and I'm talking about, guys like Marcus Lemonis from The Profit, CEO of Camping World, one of our instructors, Neil Patel, one of the greatest online marketers in the game.
Yep.
So it's people playing the game at that level. Joel Marion, 20 million people on his email database, did 780 million. We have over 22 nine-figure instructors teaching over 40 different instructor classes in all these different niches. And then we did something even crazier. We went out and we said, let's become like the Netflix for entrepreneurs, where Monday through Friday, we go live from our studio. We do a live training call. It's a mentoring session where now our community members can ask us questions, and 100 million instructor is there 5 days a week to answer the questions. So that's 100millionacademy.com. You just got to get plugged in. If you do that, all of a sudden now you feel a little bit more confidence because you can get your questions answered. You can get peer-to-peer help. Like sometimes people don't relate to me because they're like, Cody, you don't get it. You're rich. You're already, you got the
Like you're already there.
Yeah, it's like you can't relate to the pain that I'm going through because it's easy for you. You got the reputation, you got the brand, you got the marketing. Okay, well, then learn from the community.
Yeah.
Peer-to-peer is sometimes more powerful than a mentoring relationship. But if you're not plugged into something, and I believe that people are just walking around with their umbilical cord trying to plug it in, it feels so good. It's like, oh, finally I'm around people that get it.
Yeah.
And that would be the final step. And if you do that and you just put your blinders on, I'll leave you with at least a little piece of advice from my mentor that he used to drill it into my head. He would say, Cody, he would say two sayings. Cody, yes, gets you out of Egypt, but no, takes you to the promised land. And I said, what do you mean by that? He said, look, in the beginning, you got to say yes a lot. But at a certain point, you got to say no to everything. That's how you really level up. And
that's great advice.
Yeah. And the other thing you would say is, Sperber, you're dying to death by 1,000 cuts. Knock it off. Right? And what that means is you got to approach things. And this is now a Cody Sperber saying, I'm going to throw my own thing on it, which is a starve the ponies, feed the stallions. It's all the same thought. Quit thinking as an entrepreneur you can do it all, because you can't. You're going to do 10 things at 10%. It's the dumbest approach, but we all do it.
Yeah, we're all guilty of it for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, because we're superhumans, right? You're so narcissistic that you think you can do it all.
Yeah.
But the reality is you can't. And I would rather dominate one or two things and literally dominate them than be mediocre at 10. And if you want to be the best agent in town, you better buckle down and be the best agent and not try to be the best agent and the best educator and the best whatever.
I love that. And that's something we talk about on the show a lot, is that the number one thing you can do to get through all this is have the skills. The skills will always win. So I think that's critical for everybody moving forward. I just have a couple of quick wrap-up questions here. I know that you're a big kind of tech guy, and that you're good at systems, things like that. So I'm just curious, like, what are some of your favorite tools right now, apps, softwares that you're just using to win with?
Well, we've built a lot of things in-house. So I have a software called the Deal Automator. Cool. If you go to dealautomator.com, it's an all-in-one real estate platform, investing platform. It runs our business. Texting softwares, super important. If you go to cleverskiptracing.com, if you want to skip trace data, you can get a lot of good skip trace data there.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah, our model is pretty simple. The money's in the data, right? And if you don't have access to the good data, you're always going to be one step behind somebody like me that actually understands how to farm the data and utilize the data to pinpoint the best up-and-coming deals. So for me, the way I look at it is like this. Take Phoenix market, 5 million people in our greater metro area. I can't market to 5 million people. It's too expensive, too difficult, and not worth it.
Right.
How do I take those 5 million people and chunk them down? Well, the way we used to do it is you would just take all 5 million people and you would start data stacking. And what that means is we would look at it and go, all right, going back to the beginning of our conversation, what are all the reasons somebody might become motivated? All right, so property has X amount of equity. Show me all the properties with, 40% equity or more. Mm-hmm. That whittles the 5 million down a little bit. Now, let's take all those homeowners. Which ones are out of state? Because if they're out of state, they might be in a little bit more pain than somebody in state that can easily deal with it. All right, which ones are sitting vacant? Which ones are behind on payments? Which ones,
just got divorced.
Yeah, just got a divorce.
Right.
And all of a sudden now there's a bucket of 175. I can send direct mail to 175 people. If I wanted to, I could go drive around and knock on their doors. It's manageable. It's a manageable number. Yeah. I can skip trace their phone numbers. I can text them. I can cold call them, send direct mail. So now it becomes manageable. And there's like a lot of these like buckets that you can create, marketing buckets. So the way I approach my marketing is I always say, all right, so you got to get the data first and foremost. The Deal Automator has all the data in it. It allows you to do the data stacking. But then once you have that, which strategies are you going to deploy to contact them? So like I said, texting. I'd have to find out. I wish I could remember the name of the texting platform that we're using. I might have to text somebody and ask for the texting platform name. It's a new platform we just started using. Oh, I remember it now. It's called Batch.
Batch. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And so it allows you, it's TCPI compliant, I think is what it's called. And it allows you to send text messages, and you can create pre-created text messages. So like, for instance, if I text out, hey, I'm a real estate investor looking to buy in your neighborhood. Are you interested in getting a cash offer? I'm going to get F off. You suck. Take me off your list. Leave me alone. But if I say, hey, how's it going? How's your day? 99%. Great. Who's this?
Yeah, great. Who's this?
Yeah. So texting is an art form, right? It's just like, okay, how can I be playful with my texting? And you can create all these pre-created things. And as soon as they text back, you just hit, pre-created message 1. And now I'm firing off manual text, but it's kind of automated, but it's manual to all these people. Once I get a conversation started, get them on the phone, set a meeting, go out, do our presentation, and boom, we get a deal. So that's how we were doing it. Now what we're doing is we're taking it one step further, because technology is always evolving. And now we're moving into the futuristic world of artificial intelligence.
Ooh, I like this.
And so this is where it's really going. So we had a data scientist show up at one of my events a while back, and he said, Cody, you're missing the boat on what's coming. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, do you understand what probability and propensity is? And I was like, nope, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he goes, well, if you think about it like this, we can pretty much like score every homeowner in the Phoenix metro area. We could do this anywhere as long as we have the data. Because if you think about it, there's some data that's very like logical to be attached to real estate, which is what we were doing. Tax lien, throw it in there. Foreclosure, throw it in there. Divorce, throw it in there. But what about spending habits, social habits, where they vacation? I don't know if you know this, it scares the crap out of me, but there's like 50 million data points on each one of us.
It's crazy.
That's somewhere in a database, sitting there, tracking everything we're doing. And what probability is, think about your credit score. Probability is kind of like, are you likely to pay your bills on time or not pay your bills on time? High credit score, you're probably going to pay your bills on time. Low credit score, you're probably not. Well, we could take homeowners and give them a probability. Will they pay their bills, their mortgage, or not? Will they probably want to sell at a discount in the future, or will they probably not? And so you could start scoring people. And then propensity is like a time frame. Are they probably going to pay their bills within the next 30 days or 60 days, or are they not going to? Will they want to sell at a discount within the next 90 days, or will they not? So probability and propensity. So now we're starting to score these homeowners, and it's almost like taking all these data points, shoving it into an artificial intelligence algorithm and having it learn upon itself. So every time I do a deal, and I do a lot of deals, right? I have 14 rehabs going right now, 2 spec builds over $2 million. I got about, anywhere between 10 to 12 wholesale, 10 to 15 wholesale deals that we do every single month. And so every time I do a deal, I shove it back into the algorithm and I give it all the details of the deal. And then it goes out into the world and it pulls all the data points and it says, this is the model. This is the type of people that we want to show our marketing to. And it gets smarter every time you do a deal. And it's now updating scores of probability and propensity on every single homeowner. Now it's not just data, it's smart data.
Right.
And that's where we're going. And once I understood this and he broke it down like that, I was like, oh my God, secret weapon. Yeah. Let's go. How expensive is this? Like, can we do this affordably? And what all the algorithm does is tell us who to show our pay-per-click ads to, our Facebook ads to, and send direct mail to.
It's amazing.
That's what it does.
Yeah.
And that's the future. So if you're watching this, I feel bad if you don't have this. You need to go find companies that do AI lead generation and jump in on it.
So that's the key word, AI lead generation.
It's kind of the future, man. And we'll see how it all plays out, because tech is getting so good. I would say at least for the next year or two, it's the cutting edge, get out in front of the wave concept.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm definitely going to check that out, because that's some advanced ultra underground ninja strategy right there.
Oh yeah.
All right, cool. And then the stacking tool that you mentioned, that was one of your own tools, right? For the mail, how they stack it down like that. What was that?
It's called the Deal Automator.
Okay.
I have a premium data called Lead Pipes Premium. But yeah, just go to cleverinvestor.com and go to tools.
Go to Deal Automator.
Or you could go to dealautomator.com.
Awesome. Definitely check that out, you guys. Just 2 questions to wrap up. You've done thousands of deals now. You've been in a lot of situations. You've kind of seen it all at this point for the most part. Looking back over your career, what is one thing that you wish you would have known sooner that would have taken you a lot further faster?
That's always a tough one. A lot of people ask me that because, I'm a big believer in things happen for you, and all the pain, all the failed partnerships and people stealing from you and contractors screwing you over and people saying one thing and doing another and just backdooring or sidelining you. It all built up this strength for a guy who had no business experience. I literally came into this business thinking everybody wanted to do good business and win. I thought everybody had the same belief system and vision. And then when you get in there and you realize, wow, there's a lot of cutthroat people. There's a lot of people that sabotage their own success, try to sabotage yours. It definitely created a much more capable entrepreneur out of me. So I don't know if I change anything. I think the thing that I wish I was better at is this concept of balancing family and entrepreneurship. Because it is a very difficult thing to do. I've come to accept the fact that there is no such thing as balance, but I wish I would have earlier on got better at being able to shift and make the people that are in front of me at that moment the main thing, right? And shift them and make them my priority. And I screwed that up my first year and a half. And I thank God Shannon is such an amazing human being and put up with all my BS. Because without her, I definitely wouldn't be where I am. But that first year, if roles were reversed, I would have left her ass a long time. I would have killed her. I would have, it was so painful. I was such a jerk. Yeah. I was so focused on what I was trying to build and do that I just totally neglected our relationship. And I look back, and that's probably the only thing I do regret, because she deserved more and she stuck with me through all that. Now that I woke up, I give her everything that I possibly can as far as my personal energy. When I'm pulling up into my house, I have a new habit that I park my business in the car or in the garage with the car. I sit there for about 3 to 5 minutes. I just decompress. I say, you know what, Sperber, when you walk in that door, your day was great. Everything's good. You're not bringing that baggage into the house. You're going to get present with your kids. You're going to put your phone away. Nothing's more important than them in those relationships. And you're going to make them feel like $1 zillion. And that shift has not only saved my marriage, but really made me a much happier person, made my kids and my relationship much better with my kids. So if I could give you any advice, there's no such thing as balance unless you don't want to be very good at what you're doing, because whatever you're focused on, you need to be 10,000% in that thing, but get good at the shift. I
like that. I like the shift because it's so important, especially for us entrepreneurs. Like, there's nothing worse than getting home and just being, at the dinner table, kind of robotic, just thinking about your day, totally not being present with the family. And I love that just shift, or like changing the hat, right? Now I'm dad, now I'm business guy. And I like that 3-minute pause in the car before you go in to kind of recenter your mind around that.
So valuable.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I wish I would have done it earlier. And when your wife's happy, or your significant other is happy, you're going to be way more empowered to, when you do go to work, to be all in. Yeah.
And they're going to be more supportive. They're going to know more about what's going on. It's all of it. It all works together. And then final question. I know you have some young kids as well. I have a 5 and a 3-year-old son. And I'm just curious, if you were coaching them on how to be successful in life, what would you tell them?
I do have certain language patterns that I use around my kids that I loop over and over and over, talking about what it takes to be a leader, talk about setting standards, talk about extreme ownership, like those kind of things. I bring my kids with me all the time. Every weekend, get in the car, we're going to the projects,
And I've even seen your kids in your videos and your ads.
Yeah. Because I want my kids got to make a choice. Do you want to be a consumer? Do you want to be a creator?
Ooh, I like that.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, once I made that shift, that's what we talked about being on Instagram. You got to be a creator. Don't just be somebody that, loses 20, 30 minutes going down the Instagram rabbit hole. Instead, write your captions, curate your content, make those better posts. And so I want them to be involved with the real estate business, because nobody taught me what it takes to be successful. I got very lucky. I'm now, unfortunately, battling different set of problems with my kids, which is I can't allow you to be entitled. Dad, I made the mistake one time of driving my kid to school in a Lamborghini. I would never do it again, and I wish I never did it, because from that moment forward, he's the rich kid.
Yeah.
And now he did what every kid does when they pop out of a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
I'm here, right? He's doing the Lambo dance. And I'm like, no, stop it. That's not what this is about. Yeah. Every kid just completely shit on him from that moment forward, because he put a big target on himself. And I can't allow that to happen. I can't have entitled, spoiled kids. And so getting them involved is the best thing. Show them. Don't just tell them, show them. Teach them the money game, because there are rules to the money game. And if you master those rules, getting more assets, limiting liabilities, living below your means, staying laser focused, like all the things we talked about, he'll win. And I already told him, I'm going to set you up. You want to go to college? Cool. You don't want to go to college? I'll help you start a business. I'll give you a business loan, whatever we got to do. But I'm not giving you a pile of money. It's just not going to happen. I love that. I'll give you the ability to pick which charity you want to give all my money to. Right? You want to help me with that? Like, you can watch the money go to work, and I'll make sure you have a roof over your head and medical and food, but you're not getting a pile of money to go play. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm definitely. You got any dad advice for me? I need some. What are you doing?
Man, I'm right there with you. I think leading by example is number one, right? Like, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head of including your kids in what you're doing. Like, I've been explaining to my 5-year-old what cash flow is since he was like 2 years old. And, just learning the game and treating others the way you want to be treated, and staying humble, working hard, all that. I think that's awesome. The name of the game right there. And be an entrepreneur.
You're in your prime right now. That age is so fun. They're starting to, be a lot easier to move around with and travel with and all that stuff. And so It's such a fun age. My mentor told me when I was really struggling with the balance thing, he said, Cody, you really have like 9 summers or 8 summers, and that's it.
It's heavy.
When you really think about it, because once they get to like 14, 15, 16, like now their friends come with you. They don't, you're not,
you're cool totally uncool at that point.
Yeah. And so it's like, you got maybe from like 4 to 13 or whatever that is. And then you're out. And then, I think about that a lot now. I have a 11-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I'm like, damn, a couple more summers.
Got to enjoy them. That's right. Well, hey man, I really appreciate it. I think it's been a really great conversation. Appreciate everything, all your insights on everything. If you guys have any questions, put them in the box down below. I'm sure we can circle back on those. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes, share it, like it, do all that fun stuff. Definitely check out @CleverInvestor on Instagram because you're putting out a ton of great stuff, and 100 Million Academy also for the entrepreneur stuff. And then all the other tools he mentioned, the deal analyzer, automator, the marketing stuff. Just go out there and kick some ass. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for having me. See you guys.
Thanks a lot.